Good evening, everybody. This is Ayappa here from Your Story, part of Your Story Education, and we are happy to have all of you here as part of our webinar today on Entrepreneur Soul Book by Swati Jena. As part of this webinar, we will have Swati here run us through what all is required for aspiring entrepreneurs, and post that we will take a few Q&As. So I think we have waited for about 5 minutes, so I think we can start off right away. So before I hand it over to Swati, I'll just quickly introduce Swati and we'll take it from there. So Swati Jena is an entrepreneur with expertise in education and writing. Swati has been recognized as LinkedIn's top voices of India for 2017-18, placing her among 192 top voices of LinkedIn globally as on 2017, selected from 530 million LinkedIn users. Her LinkedIn articles have been republished on platforms such as Tech in Asia, The Canadian HR Reporter, and Kaustubh. Swati has authored the Entrepreneur Soul Book, Is It Your Cup of Tea?, which reached the #1 bestseller rank in the entrepreneurship ebook category on Amazon. Swati spoke at TEDx on her idea worth sharing, Life is like a Google screen. Through her startup, Write4, Swati is enabling writers across age groups build mastery in writing. Swati has spoken and moderated conversations on entrepreneurship, gender and safety, high impact writing, content marketing across forums such as FICCI's Road to Global Entrepreneurship Summit at IIMB, NSRCL, Product Leaders Forum, XLRI, and Bosch. Swati's professional career spans across 16 years and 10 plus industries in roles as diverse as entrepreneurship, human resources, consulting, product management, and teaching. She studied MBA at XLRI Jamshedpur and attended Harvard's professional program, Think Tank on Global Education. This webinar will help us run through what entrepreneurs are looking for. And post this, we will also have a masterclass on the same subject in the next week. We will give you more information on that towards the end of the session. And we had shown the participation guidelines, so chat will be disabled for the webinar. Any questions you all have, please ask it in the Q&A section, and Swati will take it up towards the end of the session. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Ayappa. And I will try and speak really loud because I saw a couple of comments that the volume is not loud, so I hope I'm audible. All right. So I've been an entrepreneur twice. The first time I took the plunge was in the 11th year of my career. I did it for a year. It was okay, I would say. Then I went back, I worked for another 3 years. In 2017, I took the second plunge. So it was late in the evening, and and it was a tough day. And I was thinking what it might have been like if I'd chosen to focus on my corporate career, right? And I was thinking, how is being on a job different from working on your own? And this is a piece I had written on LinkedIn. This is before I had written the book, actually. And this had a lakh plus view. And the only reason I mention it is this resonated with so many people. I want to start with it, and I've included this in my book as well, because I think this captures the essence of the transition we need to plan for, and which is what we're going to talk about today, for anyone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, right? So I just want to quickly read this because to my mind, this really captures the essence of the transition. Being on a job is like being on a train that will move, and you just need to be on it to move with it. You may choose to run, walk, or just sit on the train, and you will still feel life is moving. You can't run ahead of the train or stay behind it. You may be on the first class compartment or in one with stinky toilets, but the train and you with it will move, that is guaranteed. Working on your own is like going to the engine cabin and putting the coal in every single day for the train to move, watching if the train is headed in the right direction and on track. You're neither ahead nor behind the train. You become the train. The worst fear of quitting one's job is not loans, bills, and savings. The worst fear of quitting one's job is whether you will have the energy every single day to go to the engine cabin and put the coal in, to keep the fire burning. On some days, I dream of being on the train that moves on its own. It will be nice to not face the furnace. Alas, it may take me to a destination far away from mine. The engine, the coal, and soot are waiting for me on another one. And like I said, by the end of this session, if I am able to help you think through this massive transition from being on a job to working on your own and thinking of the startup, which we do all the time, it's just one of the many challenges that we must prepare for. And therefore, the very simple objective I've set for this webinar is, if by the end of this, all aspiring entrepreneurs listening to this webinar, if you can become aware of the areas that you're not thinking about while preparing to become an entrepreneur, and if you go back with at least some questions that you've not asked yourself seriously so far, I will consider the objective met. I'm going to share 4 mini stories. These are, conversations I've had with entrepreneurs, people who want to become entrepreneurs, and 6 questions that we're going to reflect on collectively. Okay. So the first story, I'm calling it the job break aha. And this is the story of a friend of mine. She worked at a very senior role in HR in a tech company. And she has had a long and successful career, and then job was not making that much sense. The work she was doing was not challenging her that much, and she thought, okay, let me quit and try doing something else. So she quit her job for a year, and in that she tried doing different things, and at the end of it she took a call that she wanted to go back to a job because she was not cut out for entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you what the challenge was. She had clearly identified areas of passion, right? So a lot of people who want to do entrepreneurship, they don't really know, okay, which area I want to work on or what I really care for. She already knew that that was not the problem. She had finances, that was not the problem. She was she was a credible individual with a lot of skills, so she would be able to put a team together. That was also not the problem. What she realized her problem was the fact that she could not be self-driven. She said, I needed a job, I needed a boss to keep myself on track. And that is very important. That awareness and realization is very important. And I say this story to highlight the point that having been in that shoes, we always underestimate the quantum of change and shift entrepreneurship means to us, right? For all us aspiring entrepreneurs, we always looking at, okay, what startup should I start? How do I go about it? And all of that is required. But what we overlook are aspects about ourselves which are going to impact how we go about our startup. And that is all, that's today's conversation, right? And some of the areas and many changes, I've highlighted a few. First is autonomy, right? We love saying, I want to be my own boss, right? It would be fun to not have to take orders from anyone else. It is a double-edged sword. Having a bossless life, that very boss that we detested quite often, or if not quite often, at times, you might just miss that boss because you might have moments where you think that, do I really have to, take all the decisions? I wish there could be someone who would tell me what to do, right? And that is what complete autonomy and being your own boss means, right? We only look at the positives of it, and as I see, we don't entirely prepare ourselves for the responsibility it means. So that is point number 1. Second, decision making. Like at work, even if you're in a senior decision making kind of a role, the accountability and there's an entire chain of approvals that you take in decision making, right? It is spread across. That safety net is not there in entrepreneurship. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to take a lot of decisions, this is something that we need to prepare for, because we'll have to take decisions every single day, small decisions, big decisions, even things like which vendor to choose, which website to go for, something very small and something very big, endless decision making. And that's something that I'm afraid we don't mentally prepare ourselves for, right? Also, unlimited accountability, right? Again, at workplace, even if you are in a senior role, there is a collective unit that takes a hit. When we become an entrepreneur, the way our decisions hit us on a day-to-day basis, I have experienced it. I keep talking to my entrepreneurial peers. The way your decisions hit you directly, that accountability, that's something that we have to think about consciously. Even if you can't be prepared for everything, we need to give it a thought and at least brace ourselves for it. Then comes all the personal aspect, lifestyle. Your routine will change, right? When we work in a completely different mode, right? Even simple things like how many material possessions you have and how much time and money needs to be invested to just upkeep that, versus how will you give your time entirely to your work. All those things will come into play, right? Social life, do you have an active social life? What kind of a routine you follow? Family, often overlooked, and we will talk about that later, right? It might be my aspiration to be an entrepreneur. It might not be my family's aspiration, right? Still, their life will be impacted when I become an entrepreneur, and that is a preparation that we seldom do, and that impacts our lives, because entrepreneurship is not easy, and that's something at least we all at least have heard of, we are aware. And if we are not working on the family aspect, and like I said, we'll talk about it, it will mean trouble. Finally, identity. I work for Microsoft, I work for Google, I work for Unilever, right? You say it and your identity is established. These organizations, people in a family, know of, society know of. I don't need to explain myself. That thing disappears the day you wake up as an entrepreneur, right? Your identity that was from where you work is gone. And hopefully we will all be able to rebuild our identity as someone someday. But there will be this phase of feeling like a nobody, and that you have to be mentally prepared for, right? So these are the things that we need to start thinking of. And for whatever I've spoken so far, if you've even begun to think of aspects you probably haven't given so much thought so far, my job is done here. The first question that I want all of us to collectively look at, and if we could put up poll 1, is, until this point in time, did you really differentiate between preparing for your startup, which is your startup idea, where should I start the business, who should I partner with, versus preparing as an entrepreneur? Did you see them as one and the same, or did you really differentiate between the two and you realize that you need separate preparation for both those aspects? So if you could quickly respond to it, and let's see where all of us stand collectively. Whenever we are ready, we could publish the results. Okay, so there's a 40-50 divide. 40% said no, I saw them as the same, and 60% realized that I need separate preparation. So 40%, for those of you who have responded in that category, I hope you will be able to now start thinking of these areas as well. So I have a second question for everyone. So if you could put up poll 2, which is as an aspiring entrepreneur, did you deeply and consciously, those are keywords, think about everything that will change about your life to become an entrepreneur? If you could choose whichever of the three comes closest. If we are done, then we could publish the results. Okay, so 7% say never really gave it much thought, 52% thought of some areas but not deeply, and 40% say they've consciously considered all aspects, right? So if I add 50 to 59, nearly 60% have either not thought or thought of some areas but not all, right? So let's look at, so with that understanding, then let's look at what are some of the areas that we need to think about deeply. And I've categorized them into 3 zones. We'll talk a little bit in detail about each of them. So first is self. Am I reasonably prepared at a personal level? Family, are they aware of what's in store and are they reasonably prepared? And money, is there a reasonable financial cushion? Now, if you see, the word that I have used here is reasonable, and the reason behind using reasonable is simply this, that while I'm insisting that a structured and systematic approach to the preparation is required, we cannot be impractical to assume that you can prepare for the entire journey. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 4 years. I know friends who've been entrepreneurs for longer, or for they've just started out, right? And all of us learn along the way. So when I say reasonable, I would say if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, we're preparing for at least the first 1 or 2 years of your entrepreneurial journey. And if you're prepared for at least that, then you can take it from there. You can learn along the way. The other thing that I want to speak of here is, and this is what I started my book with as well. In my first stint, right, I did it for a year, is what I mentioned, and then I went back to work. It wasn't until I would say about a year into the job, which was a year after I'd completed my first entrepreneurial stint, that a lot of things made sense, right? And the one conclusion that I reached was that the first year of entrepreneurship was more like, I don't know that I don't know, right? So even the areas that I need to be aware of, that realization came much later, and which is why I talk a lot about this area, that can we make sure that maybe we are a little more aware when we are actually taking the plunge, right? And particularly with self and family. Self is you yourself, and family, someone, people who are very close to you. These are particularly 2 areas we tend to take for granted. Money, I would presume that we still think of to some extent, and we're going to talk about it. But self and family particularly are likely to fall into this I don't know that I don't know zone, right? So I might think that I know, but I'm not even aware that I have not thought through these areas. So with that in mind, let me talk a little bit more about self. And the story I want to share here is, I'm calling it I Need to Fail Fast. And this is a friend of mine. He lives in the Silicon Valley. He's a techie and works for a very reputed company. And I guess it's by the virtue of being in Silicon Valley, everyone is bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. So he also wanted to start, he would say, the next Google. And he, and with a bunch of other co-founders, they're working on a company. So we had this long chat, and during that he said, I'm trying to fail fast. I need to fail fast. And he was in the initial stages of his venture. And the reason he was saying it is, and as many of you would know, it is typically said in entrepreneurial lore, if I may put it that way, that the sooner you fail, the sooner you learn. And, that probably helps us with early lessons, and we can avoid some of that at, when we have already scaled up, right? Now, the problem with how he was saying it, and it was a much longer conversation we had, the problem is that he had made it his goal because of, he had access to obviously all the entrepreneurial learning, lessons, and all of it. The way he was looking at it was he had reverse engineered it to some kind of a formula where failure is not, failure is inevitable, right? When we are particularly in the initial stages, and it's not that we stop failing later, but failure is inevitable. But failure is not a goal. If we can be successful, if we can not fail, that's the ideal situation. But the way his mind processed it, and he did not even realize it, is he made failure his goal, right? And this is just one example. I've had many conversations, which leads me to think that a lot of times what happens is we have access to a lot of knowledge, but the way we process it in our mind is we try to reverse engineer it into patterns and formula. And the reason I mentioned this story is this is one of the aspects that we have to start becoming aware of ourselves, because when we do this, we are not even aware that we are doing something like this, right? So when we look at self, there are many dimensions of self we must very seriously evaluate. And one is, competencies, what kind of skills I need, what kind of mindset I need. Rhetorically, we all know, I'm sure, if all of us were asked, we will say you need to have ABC as entrepreneurs. But how seriously have we assessed ourselves, right? So think of it, when we are at a job and we are going for a job interview, we are hiring others as managers. There's so much of evaluation we do. There's so much of, assessment of skills and, mindset that happens. But entrepreneurship, on which we, bet our savings, we bet our career, who knows? Someone might not be successful. You might not be able to get a job back. We don't know what is in store in future, right? Something with that much risk, do we think seriously enough? Do we assess ourselves seriously enough, right? So that's one. There are many aspects, and when we do the masterclass, we will be able to go into, questionnaires and actually be able to evaluate these much deeply. But I definitely do want to call out a few areas. One should look at how you lead your life, right? Your lifestyle preferences. The other is a fallacy we might suffer from, right? I've been a good student. I've gone to a good, a college. I've had a successful career. But does it necessarily mean I will be a good entrepreneur? And, it will take the same things to make me a good entrepreneur, right? And again, rhetorically, we might understand this, but have we done a serious evaluation? The biggest area of investigation is, why do I want to become an entrepreneur? And I've worked, I've spoken to entrepreneurs who have done entrepreneurship for a long time, maybe succeeded, some did not succeed. And, they came back and said, when I heard you talk about why do I want to become an entrepreneur, I actually did not think at that time, but now you made me think, and I've gone back and reflected, and they're able to connect their reason to become an entrepreneur to some of the decisions they took as an entrepreneur, right? So think of it, which business you choose, right? How people choose business, and you'll be surprised there are different ways people choose which business. So some people would really pick areas they care for, they've worked in, they've put in, they've researched. There are many people who pick businesses simply because you feel your chances of success are high, simply because you think the market is favoring that kind of business, or it'll be easy to make money in that business, right? And it all falls back to, why do you want to become an entrepreneur? How the entrepreneur thinks, what kind of business partners you choose. And there are many examples, I can tell you, where your personal mindset made you choose a certain business partner, right? Can you work with someone who is really good in the area, but they will challenge you, right? Or you would rather opt for someone who you can work with much easier, who is more like a friend, right? And people make these choices, and these are not business decisions. These are very personal decisions, right? Even which investors you say yes to. You would think ramp up, ramp down. Of course, these are business decisions, but there is so much of that person, of that entrepreneur that comes into play. And the reason I talk about these is there isn't enough conversation, there isn't enough research that goes into that area. Whether a startup, it's successful or, or fails, we always do these retrospective analysis, and a lot of times we're looking at the business aspects. But there isn't enough conversation around what about the entrepreneur, what are those factors that play a role in decision making. And when that conversation happens, it will happen. But as an individual entrepreneur, I would definitely say these areas need serious thought, right? So with that, I have the next question for you, and let's see if where do we stand on how much self-assessment we have done on skills, a lifestyle preference, or what is my why do I want to become an entrepreneur? So let's see where we stand as a group. Okay, if we're done with the poll, we could publish the results. Okay, 16% not really assessed, 55% a bit, but not sure if I assessed it right, and 29% said I have assessed it thoroughly. So by rounded up, 30% have assessed it thoroughly, but 70% to some extent or not really. So I hope for those of you who haven't done it thoroughly will go back and think deeply about this area, because this has clear impact on the business decision we take. Okay, so with that, the next aspect I want to talk about is family. And like I said, this is an area we take for granted simply because there are people who are close to us. So we overlook this area often. And this mini story, Have You Lost Your Mind, is my own. I'm a second generation entrepreneur. So my dad was also an entrepreneur, and he had very good startup ideas, and that was also many years ago. But he could not scale up. Overall, his business did not do well, and that was my family's experience of entrepreneurship, and even my own experience of entrepreneurship as I was growing up. We've seen ups and downs, right? And to be very honest, before I became an entrepreneur, at a point in time in my career, I did not foresee myself becoming an entrepreneur. But when it happened, it happened. So when I took my, made the first announcement that I want to be an entrepreneur, I really did not do any of this preparation that I'm talking to you about today. It is in retrospect that I feel this is a more structured approach. My family obviously did not take well to it. My parents particularly did not take well to it, because for them, their memories of entrepreneurship has not been good, right? And I've gone the traditional path of you studied in a good B school, had a good job. So there was a lot of friction at home. My first stint of entrepreneurship, I would see my parents, particularly my mother, to be very worried. And while I wouldn't show it, I would be worried for their health, right? So again, it's very difficult to quantify these areas, but entrepreneurship is a stressful journey. You're learning new things every day. And if your family, the one that you stay with, is not on board, it can really pull you back. And therefore, from personal experience, from having spoken to other fellow entrepreneurs, I strongly insist on preparing and recommend preparing for this area. And again, I will reiterate, it might be your aspiration to be an entrepreneur. It might not be your family's aspiration, but their lifestyle gets impacted. Maybe they can't go on that holiday you always took for granted. Maybe you maybe use that fixed deposit or sell that, the house that you have to fund your startup. Maybe your children may not have a grand birthday party. There are many small and big changes that they have to deal with. And just like you need time to prepare for entrepreneurship, it's important to allow your family that time to prepare themselves as well. And there are a lot of challenges we face, while telling them. Sometimes it's because I am unsure, so I have not told my family. Sometimes I'm apprehensive that if I, tell them, they might react strongly or discourage me from becoming an entrepreneur. And there are ways to get about all of those. All those are real challenges, but the only thing I want you to take away, from what I'm saying at this point in time is this area cannot be ignored. It needs as much preparation as any of the other areas that we have spoken of. With that, let's quickly see where we stand on family. If you're planning a transition into entrepreneurship in the next 6 months to a year, have you been consciously working on this aspect? Let's see. If you're not planning to transition, maybe you can avoid responding, but those of you who are 6 months, 1 year, maybe even 1.5 years, have you been working on this area? Okay, if we are done with the poll, we could publish the results. Okay, 25% not really, beyond giving them a heads up. That's a significant number. 42% some discussions, but no serious planning. Only 33% are systematically working on this aspect. So, nearly 70% are not looking at this area deeply. So I hope now you will go back with the thought and see what it will take for you to prepare your family on different aspects. And I would recommend that you really sit and make a list and have multiple conversations around it. So with this, let's go to the next section, which is money. This is one area we probably have thought of as compared to self or family. The story I want to share with you is called I Can Survive 6 Months. So this was, again, another chat I was having with a friend who's an aspiring entrepreneur. And we're talking about another person who wants, has entrepreneurial ideas, works in a very senior role in a big organization. And that person thought that, why he was not taking the plunges, he felt that his finances wouldn't last beyond 6 months. Now, the estimated salary of that person, and he was in a very senior role, was in the range of 2 crore a year. So give or take about 15 lakh a month. And this was a shocking number, to think that someone who's that well paid does not think he or she can survive beyond 6 months. The reason that this story is significant for me is, of course, when we think of money, we always think in terms of a crunch, right? I'm going to have a financial crunch. But there are enough and more such cases where people have resources, but they feel they cannot have a long buffer, simply for the reason that they have an elaborate lifestyle. And there is no changing the fact that we have to be prepared for that lifestyle to change, right? If we think that I want to continue with that same lifestyle, obviously we will find that we cannot have more than 5 or 6 months of runway, which, by the way, is not enough. So there are two aspects to it. So one, people underestimate and overlook areas that they should have some financial cushion for, because if you run out of money, and if you're the earning member of your family, it is not only do you run out of money, this mental state of panic is so severe that only a person in it can explain how terrible it is, right? So financial planning is very important. So don't underestimate, and again, we will go through this in detail in the masterclass, but I'd like to mention at least some of the areas here. Don't underestimate the areas you need to have money for, whether it's your startup, whether your personal requirements. Similarly, don't overestimate the amount of money you need, and that becomes a reason for you to never take up entrepreneurship. And it will be sad because you had the money, you just weren't prepared to modify your lifestyle, right? So that is also another extreme we must be careful about. The other thing is part-time job. Very quickly, a lot of people think, should I have a part-time job? And there is no harm in doing that, but the only caveat that I will leave you with is, in my book I've written, entrepreneurs should never forget that entrepreneurship is their full-time job, right? So sometimes there's a tendency, if you don't pick the right kind of part-time job, it becomes overwhelming and impacts the core entrepreneurial startup. So I will leave you with that much now. So very quickly, if we can have the fifth poll. If you are planning a transition in the next 6 months to a year, year and a half, how well do you think you're planning for your financials? Okay, if you're done with the poll, then we could publish the results. 41%. I'm surprised with this number, actually. I thought that we will be better prepared with financial, because usually people at least think of that. 41% are saying not planned for it systematically. 40% saying I have a broad number in mind. Only 19% saying I've done systematic planning. So I actually am surprised with this poll results, but this is telling. And if this is the case, then that there's some serious planning that we need to do in this area, because running out of money and steam is the worst thing that can happen to an entrepreneur. You just lose the runway, right? So I would want you to go back and think more about it. Okay, so with that, I come to the last piece I want to talk about. And a lot of time people say, and those of us who are aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly mid-career transition, what is the right time to take the plunge? The first thought I want to leave you with is, there are two things: right time for the startup and right time for you to transition as an entrepreneur, right? And there might just be a slight difference between the two, and it's important we realize that, because like I said, I'll reiterate, the journey of an entrepreneur is much longer than journey of a startup. Most of us will end up in multiple startups before we get into one where we will finally make it. So it's important that you also evaluate whether you are, as an individual entrepreneur, ready to take the transition. There are typically three drivers I've seen that pushes us into entrepreneurship. One I categorize as driven by distress. Sometimes it's out of control. Given the environment now, a lot of people are anticipating job loss, layoff. Some people might be pushed into entrepreneurship, for self-employment, from self-employment perspective. That is out of control. Sometimes it's a trigger incident. You had a bad experience at office, fight at workplace, fight with the boss, and in a huff you resign and say, okay, now I'm going to do something on my own. And then the third category, and I've come across a lot of people like that, they probably have some idea of what they want to start their venture in. They have the other pieces in place, but they're just thinking, I'm doing well in my job now, let me make hay while the sun shines, and when I hit a stagnation or it is not that good, then I will leave, right? Again, we can for time we can't go into details of it, but the thought I want to leave you with, particularly if you're in the last category, or even the second trigger incident, is the thought I want to leave you with is, do you want to launch yourself into something new using a negative incident? You're waiting for things to get back so that you finally gather the courage and energy to take the plunge. Maybe there's a better way of doing it. The other is driven by delusion, where either you see someone close to you, or many people transitioning, for doing well, or at least seemingly doing well, and you have the severe FOMO that now is the right time, I'm losing the opportunity. So even if you're not prepared, you will take the plunge. Or the other, so I've come across now in the market a lot of people who are rushing to start online business, whether or not online education business, whether or not they understand anything about it, because now online education is going to work. So you feel there is opportunity to make money. So whether or not you're prepared from a business point of view or a personal point of view, people are taking the plunge. So maybe the opportunity is there, but preparation is not there, right? And success is opportunity plus at least a reasonable amount of preparation, right? So this one is driven by false optimism. It's not thought through. It can be risky. Third one, which is the ideal state, and which is why we're having this conversation, is if you can plan it out, do it deliberately, consciously plan across this area, and then make the transition, right? So think through it, and maybe we can collectively just see if you are, when all of you must be aspiring entrepreneurs, where are you likely to be while taking the plunge? Honestly, like honest to your heart, where do you think you might be inadvertently? Maybe now you might think more about it, but where would you tend to be otherwise? Okay, if we're done with the poll, we could publish the results. Okay, zone of deliberation 69%, but 18% zone of distress and 13% zone of delusion. Okay, so the realization is important. I'm glad to see a 69% at least are going with a level of deliberation, which is very important. But for the remaining, if you've realized that maybe it's not driven by deliberation, I hope you will think more about it. Okay, so in what I want to leave you with is this, and this is from the book The Godfather. If you've read the book or watched the movie, this is about an Italian, gangster who's called the Godfather, right? And the one thing, if there's only one thing that I hope that you will go back with, or you will experience a shift, is, when we are at office, there are a lot of times, you might have a bad incident, or you might feel angry about something, and often you're told, it's just a job, don't take it personally. We hear this a lot, don't take it personally. I think the biggest transition to entrepreneurship is about taking it personally. It is personal. There are no two ways about it. How we work, how we take decisions, it is personal, right? So I will like to leave you with, and I would like this to linger in your mind. I quote from The Godfather: Tom, don't let anyone kid you. It's all personal. Every bit of business, every piece of shit every man has to eat every day of his life is personal. They call it business, okay, but it's personal as hell. You know where I learned that from? The Don, my old man, the Godfather. If a bolt of lightning hit a friend of his, the old man would take it personal. He took my going into the Marines personal. That's what makes him great. The great Don. He takes everything personal like God. He knows every feather that falls from the tail of a sparrow, or however the hell it goes, right? You know something? Accidents don't happen to people who take accidents as a personal interest. So the only thing, if you could take away one thing, is it is personal, and that's how we need to start preparing for it. So before we go into the Q&A very quickly, just to take a few questions. This is not to make it seem daunting. I myself am an entrepreneur. I encourage people to take up entrepreneurship, but it's important that we do it for the right reasons. Nothing can guarantee our success. I can't guarantee my own success. So, but the only thing that I've observed is lack of awareness can almost guarantee non-success or failure. So, and therefore it's very important that we seek awareness and conscious transition to entrepreneurship. So while I look at your questions, I think Subbu, you sorry, I want to share something.
Yes, thanks, Swati. That was a very insightful talk, Swati, especially the part on self, family, and money. And I'm someone who's coming from an experience of moving from a organization to a startup, starting my own startup and coming back. So it's something that a lot of us should really take into consideration when making the plunge. Maybe I personally did not do it very well. So I think from what I've noticed on the polls, there are people at different stages and different levels of the startup journey. So here at Your Story, while Swati quickly goes through the questions and decides to answer a few, we do have a few courses that we have as part of it, especially for people looking to take the plunge into startup. We have the startup course that we're offering, and we also have the funding course for people who already have their startups and are looking to take the next plunge into raising money. For our Your Story audience who are attending the webinar today, we have a special price that we're selling these courses at. The links for these courses are there in the chat. And moving on from the courses, the next slide tells us, Swati, if you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, and the next slide, I think today's discussion by Swati was very insightful. She spoke about the main topics, and there's a lot more that can be and that will be discussed. So Swati herself will be conducting a masterclass on this, where she'll deep dive into a lot of these parts that we spoke about today. We're going to have about a 3-hour masterclass where she'll focus on all of these topics. This will be happening at Your Story Education. This will be happening next week on the 13th of May. The link for this is also there in chat. You can see it in the chat window right next to you. And we will also be emailing all of this to you post this webinar. This webinar, the recording of this webinar will also be shared with you all, along with the link to attend the masterclass, which I think, especially considering the varied audience that we had today, it should be a very, very interesting masterclass that we had. So Swati, thank you so much. I'll hand it back over to you for the Q&A. And then you can maybe answer. I think we have another 10 minutes to go. So maybe about 5-6 questions you can take.
Okay.
And then we can take it.
So there are like a lot of good questions. I'm having a tough time selecting. So I'll pick a few that I can do at least some reasonable justice to in the time that we have. Okay, so the first one I'm taking is, does academic have anything to do with entrepreneurship? Does any hype persist as I'm not a graduate still, but also to go for the same, right? So let me tell you one thing. What you need for a startup, depending on what your startup is, a complete understanding of the area that you're building your startup in, right? And that there is no taking away from that. So you have a startup in, let's say, elderly care. You will have to know what it takes. You will have to know how to deliver the business. And again, like I said, you don't know all of it on day one. So that is what you need to know. Now for that, if an academic background helps you with that expertise, then your academic background aids your entrepreneurship. But will an academic background ensure your success? That way, then everyone coming from IIM, IIT, they'll be successful. No, they are like more of us fail than succeed. Okay, so will academics ensure success? No, but in terms of educational qualification, maybe business background, to the extent that it teaches you skills that you can use in entrepreneurship, it can be helpful. I don't think it's a differentiator, right? So that's how I would like to look at it. All right, so okay, can a person who is keen to be an entrepreneur and who tries hard for it, though he is new to it, though he is not from any kind of management background, does his interest and vision make him a successful entrepreneur? And will the society accept him to be an entrepreneur? What exact qualities does he need to come up with? So I think the last question you have asked, right? The qualities you need to, to be an entrepreneur and to have a reasonable chance at success. So let me first tell you, no one can guarantee success of a startup. Okay, if that be the case, then all of us would follow that pattern and be successful. So no one can guarantee it, but there are some things that at least will give you a more a greater chance at success, and then there'll be many other factors at play. So what qualities is a good question. One I mentioned during the webinar is not to have a formula mindset, not to look for a formula. What we try to do is, okay, I read about Jack Ma and now I'm trying to reverse engineer what he did. It doesn't work like that, right? So if I can't do justice to the question by telling you all the qualities, but one thing that I will definitely, just tell you and leave you with is the ability to observe the society, the challenges. Let's say there's a particular area you want your startup in, right? How closely you observe it, how much you are able to think. They call it first principle thinking. I don't want to use jargon here, but what I want to say is look closely around you, right? Your next startup idea could be very much around you, in your family, in your society, in your colony, right? And if you see also, entrepreneurs who have startups like that are people who very keenly observe, right? So that's one thing I say. Don't look for an idea on your laptop. Look for your idea around you, right? So keen observation. There are many such qualities, but I'll leave you with one. Now you're saying, will society accept it? So that's the other thing, right? As an entrepreneur, you should first worry about whether you accept yourself. When you start doing your work is good, automatically everyone will accept everyone, an entrepreneur or anyone else in any other career. But till you are there, it's important that you accept yourself. So that is the wrong question. The question is, do you accept yourself? That's very important, particularly for an entrepreneur. You cannot take decision based on whether others will accept you or not. Okay. Now, sometimes the passion we carry does not resonate well with the money part. So can we identify the scope of following passion and making reasonable money? Specific to independent professional like photographer, reviewer. So I know where you're coming from. You love your work so much that, the whole idea of maybe being too salesy or just thinking from a commercial point of view doesn't appeal to you. In fact, in my book, I've written a chapter on how big a business you should build, which is not teaching you how to scale, but essentially answering this question you've asked. Any size of business is fine, right? Not everyone is going to build a unicorn. There are small and medium scale industry. There's an entire category, right? So you decide how big a business you should build. You decide what value you want to add, and then see, how much money you can make out of it. In fact, I've categorically mentioned, so you earn a certain corporate salary, right? If you can build a business which can help you earn profits, which is equivalent to your salary, but you're doing work that's more meaningful. Maybe you're even employing a few other people. What's the harm in it? There's no harm in it, right? So any size of business is fine. Decide on the value you want to add. First, see how you will deliver it. With time, if you realize that you can now deliver it to more people, find a way to do it. Also know that our thought of how big something can be evolves as we go into the business. What I thought in year 1 might change in year 3 because my capability has increased, my knowledge has increased, right? So take it one at a time, but short answer, any size of business is fine. Just focus on the work you like and see how you can deliver is best. That is the core, right? Then see how to scale it and how much money you want to earn or you can earn out of it. Or, essentially how big a business you are building. Okay. Subbu, how much time do I have? Like 1 or 2 more questions?
Here. Swati, I think you've wound up. So I think I was just going through a question. So I'll just field 1 or 2 to you if you don't mind from the thing.
Yeah.
I think one is that quite a few people seem to be asking about what type of books or what type of preparation do you recommend for reading? So I personally, I think I would definitely recommend Swati's book itself, which is the Entrepreneur Soul book. Swati, do you have any other recommendations in terms of what reading or people can have for entering the space?
Yeah, so I think what you are reading, and of course books can be a good source of information, and so can listening to podcasts, like the kind of content your story has. There are many lot of material available for entrepreneurship in the web, right? So what I will say is, first define what you want to learn, right? So do you want to learn let's say how to be able to market, right? Content marketing, etc. Then you might want to read something by Gary Vee or something like that, right? Do you Subbu recommended my book. So my book is very specific to how do you prepare for entrepreneurship, the part 1 of the book, right? So if you want something like that, you can read a book to that effect. If you're looking at, if you're getting partners and how to split your business, there's a book called Slicing the Pie, which is very good to help you understand what is a fair way to split your business, right? So first make a list of what area do you want to learn, because reading a book takes time, and as an entrepreneur you don't have so much time, by the way. So make a list of the areas, then go and find out what are good books in that area. I think that's a practical approach to it.
Perfect. I think you actually answered another question in that, because people were asking, when do you decide is the right time to plunge between going as a solo founder or do you go with co-founders and things like that? So I think that's a good book that you recommended where people take the call. So I think, Swati, that's an hour for us today. And I think that's been really insightful and really helpful. Thank you so much, Swati. And for everyone else here, as we said, Swati will be conducting a masterclass next week, which I think will be extremely insightful. You can write to us at Academy@YourStory for any queries, or you can use the link in the chat to register for the masterclass. Please reach out to us for any feedback or any suggestions that you have. And we will also be sending a recording of this webinar to you all who have registered for this event. So once again, Swati, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We will have a chat with you again soon.
Thank you, everyone, and all the very best in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.